Rome, 54 AD. Emperor Claudius clutches his stomach at a palace banquet. The most powerful man in the world is dying, and everyone knows it. But here's what they don't know. The woman who killed him is standing in the shadows, watching, waiting to confirm her work. Her name is Locusta, and she didn't act alone. She was hired by the emperor's own wife. This is the story of ancient Rome's official imperial poisoner. A woman who killed emperors and princes. A serial killer who was rewarded with estates, students, and immunity. For years, she was the most protected murderer in the Roman Empire, and it all started with a plate of mushrooms. She was from Gaul, modern-day France, likely captured during Rome's conquests and brought to the capital as a slave or prisoner. But Locusta had a skill that made her invaluable. She knew poisons. By the early 50s AD, she'd already built a reputation in Rome's underworld. Need a business rival eliminated? A wealthy relative to die unexpectedly? Locusta could make it happen. Quietly, efficiently, and most importantly, undetectably. But in 54 AD, she received an offer that would change everything. The Empress Agrippina, one of the most ruthless women in Roman history, had a problem. Her husband, Emperor Claudius, was getting old and unpredictable. She needed him dead, not eventually. Now, before he could change his will and disinherit her son Nero. According to Tacitus in his annals, Agrippina turned to Locusta. The payment, protection, wealth, and the patronage of the next emperor. Locusta accepted. Claudius loved mushrooms. Specifically, he loved Amanita caesarea, the Caesar's mushroom, a delicacy reserved for the imperial table. Locusta knew this, and she knew something else. There was another mushroom that looked almost identical. Amanita phalloides, the death cap. On October 13th, 54 AD, Claudius sat down to dinner. The mushrooms were prepared by his taster, Helotus, who, according to Tacitus, was in on the plot. Claudius ate, and within hours he began to suffer. But here's where it gets truly diabolical. Claudius, like many Romans, had a standard response to food poisoning: induce vomiting using a feather down the throat. It usually worked, except this time the feather itself had been coated with poison by Locusta. Tacitus records that Claudius died that same night. He was 63 years old. The official cause, natural illness; the reality, murder. And Locusta had just killed the Emperor of Rome. Her reward? Immunity from prosecution. A hefty payment, and soon a new client, Emperor Nero himself. Nero became emperor at just 16 years old, thanks to his mother's scheming and Locusta's poison. But there was a problem. Claudius had a biological son, Britannicus. He was only 13, but he was the legitimate heir, and as he grew older he became a threat. Nero wanted him dead. According to Suetonius in his Life of Nero, the young emperor summoned Locusta to the palace. He wanted Britannicus poisoned at a public banquet, a show of power. But when Locusta's first poison only made the boy sick, Nero was furious. He personally flogged her, beat her with his own hands for being too slow, too cautious. Then he demanded she create something stronger, something instant. Locusta delivered. At a family dinner in 55 AD, Britannicus was served a cup of wine. He took a drink. According to Tacitus, he collapsed within seconds. The 13-year-old died at the table in front of his family while Nero watched. The official story: Britannicus had an epileptic seizure, but everyone knew. The Praetorian Guard knew. The Senate knew. Rome knew. And Nero didn't care, because Locusta had proven herself once again. After Britannicus's murder, something extraordinary happened. Nero didn't just protect Locusta, he celebrated her. According to Suetonius, she was granted estates confiscated from political enemies, land, wealth, status. But more than that, Nero gave her students. He established a school of poisoning with Locusta as its headmistress. Think about that. The Roman Empire, one of history's greatest civilizations, had an imperial poison academy, and Locusta was its master instructor. For years, she trained others in her deadly craft. She experimented with new compounds, tested them on slaves and prisoners, She became, in effect, the empire's official assassin-in-residence. But empires don't last forever, and neither did Nero's protection. In 68 AD, Nero's reign collapsed. Rebellions erupted across the empire. The Senate declared him a public enemy, and Nero, facing capture and execution, took his own life. Locusta's protection died with him. The new Emperor Galba had no use for Nero's poisoner. She was arrested, paraded through the streets of Rome in chains, a public spectacle, a symbol of Nero's corruption. According to Cassius Dio and later sources, she was executed in 69 AD. Some accounts say she was thrown to wild animals in the arena. Others claim she was strangled. The exact method is unclear, but the message was not. The empire's most protected serial killer was now its most public victim. Locusta had killed an emperor, a prince, and countless others we'll never know about. For over a decade, she operated with complete immunity, protected by the very system she helped corrupt. Juvenal, the Roman satirist, later wrote about her with dark fascination, a woman who turned murder into a profession and found emperors as clients. Locusta's story isn't just about poison. It's about power, about how far people will go to seize it, and how easily a state can become complicit in evil when it serves those at the top. She was Rome's deadliest weapon, until Rome no longer needed her.